The air was thick with smoke. Fires burned in the distance, their orange glow painting the ruins of a battlefield. The ground was dark with ash, and the cries of the defeated echoed like ghosts. In the center of the wreckage, a young alien woman knelt on the cold metal floor of a wrecked ship. Her wrists were bound with iron cuffs, and her face was streaked with dirt and tears. Her captors had dragged her across the galaxy, treating her as nothing more than a prize. She had been sold from one hand to another, each owner speaking of her only as a tool to bear strong children, a tool to make their bloodline powerful. She had learned to beg, not because she wanted to, but because it was the only way to stay alive. And now she found herself before humans. She had heard of them, whispered rumors across the stars. Some called them savages, others called them protectors, but she did not know the truth. All she knew was that she had nothing left but her voice. Her knees trembled as she fell forward, her forehead touching the floor. Her voice cracked as she cried out, "Have mercy. Please, I'll bear you strong children. I'll give you whatever you want, just don't hurt me." The words echoed in the silence. The human soldiers stood still, their weapons held but not fired. Their faces were hidden behind steel helmets, but she could feel their eyes on her. The alien woman shivered, waiting for the strike, waiting for the cruel laughter that always came, but it did not come. Instead, there was silence, a silence so deep it cut through her fear. The human commander stepped forward, his boots crunching against broken metal. He was taller than she expected, broad-shouldered, with eyes that burned not with greed but with something she did not understand. He looked down at her, and she dared not raise her head. Her body shook, her chest heaved with sobs. She repeated her plea, softer this time, as if she was already fading. "Please, have mercy. I can give you children. I can make your people strong." The commander's voice finally broke the silence. It was low, steady, and filled with weight. "Stand up," he said. She froze, her heart pounding. No one had ever told her to stand. They had only ordered her to kneel, to bow, to beg. Her mind screamed at her not to obey. What if this was a trick? But her body moved on its own, trembling as she lifted herself to her feet. Her eyes met his. For the first time, she saw not hunger or cruelty, but something else. Pity. The alien woman's. Breath caught in her throat. She did not understand. Why would a human pity her? The soldiers around them shifted uncomfortably. They had heard her plea, and some could not hide the shock on their faces, but none of them mocked her. None of them laughed. This was not what she expected. Her voice shook again. You don't want me?" The words slipped out before she could stop them. She regretted it instantly, afraid it might anger him. But the commander only studied her, his eyes calm and steady. "You think your worth is only in bearing children?" he asked. His tone was not cruel, but it cut into her deeper than any blade. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Tears welled in her eyes again, not from fear this time, but confusion. The humans did not move to chain her tighter. They did not strike her. They simply watched, waiting for their commander's decision. And for the first time in her life, she felt something strange. Uncertainty. Uncertainty. Not about her fate, but about the truth she had always believed. Her mind screamed. At her, it must be a trick. Every race she had known treated her as a tool. Why would humans be different? And yet, the silence of the soldiers, the weight in the commander's gaze told her something had changed. The fire crackled in the distance. Ash drifted through the air like snow. The alien woman's heart beat faster. She had begged, expecting cruelty, but what she received was something she had never felt before. Hope. But hope was dangerous. Hope could be broken. She did not know yet if these humans were saviors or a new kind of master. All she knew was that the world she understood was beginning to crumble, and as the human commander stepped closer, the battlefield around them seemed to grow quiet. The soldiers leaned in, the air thick with suspense. The alien woman's fate hung in the balance. Would the humans claim her as others had? Or would this moment be the first time in her life that mercy was real? The answer had not yet come. But the fire in the commander's eyes told her one thing. Whatever happened next, it would change her life forever. The battlefield was still. The alien woman stood trembling, her chains heavy on her wrists. The human commander's order still echoed in her ears. Stand up. It was such a simple command, yet to her it felt impossible. For her whole life she had been told to kneel, to bow, to beg. Now for the first time someone had told her to rise. The humans around her waited, their weapons lowered but not gone. They seemed disciplined, like a single body moving with one heartbeat. She could not read their expressions, but she could feel something in the air. Not hunger, not lust, not greed. Something heavier, something that pressed against her chest like a weight. The commander took another step forward, his boots grinding against shattered stone. The glow of fire lit his face sharp and scarred. His eyes were steady, calm, but there was steel in them too. He was a man used to command, used to war. But he was not like the others she had known, her. Lips trembled, her words stumbling out again. You don't want me? You don't want my body? My blood? The commander's gaze did not shift. His voice was steady, deep, like stone rolling across the earth. You are not a tool, he said. You are not an object to be traded. You are alive. That is enough. The word struck her harder than any blow. Her knees weakened, and she nearly fell again. Alive. He spoke the word as if it had value. No one had ever spoken to her like that. The soldiers shifted, uneasy. One of them finally spoke, his tone careful. Sir, what do we do with her? She could be dangerous, another added. She's not one of us. She could be a spy or worse. The alien woman's breath caught. Yes, this was the moment she expected. Suspicion, judgment, punishment. Her heart pounded, her throat tight. She waited for the order. Execute her, but the commander did not speak that word. Instead, he turned his gaze from her to his men. If she were a danger, she would already be dead, he said. She begged for her life. She asked for mercy. And mercy is what we will give. The soldiers exchanged looks, some doubtful, some quietly nodding. The alien woman blinked, her tears blurring the scene. She could not understand. Mercy. Why would these humans risk themselves for her? Her voice was barely a whisper. You would protect me, even though I am not one of you? The commander's eyes met hers again. We protect the innocent, he said. We fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. That is what it means to be human. The words sank into her like fire and ice. So simple, yet they broke apart the chains inside her mind. Was this the truth of humans? Were the rumors wrong? The whispers that they were savages, beasts of war? Or was this something deeper, something even stronger than war itself? She staggered, her legs weak. Her heart told her to believe, but her memory screamed louder. Do not trust, do not hope, it will be broken. Her people had betrayed her, sold her, abandoned her. Every alien race had treated her as a prize. Why? Would humans be different? The commander spoke again, his voice softer now. You are safe here. No one will touch you without your will. Her chains clinked as her hands shook. The promise was too big, too impossible. She wanted to scream, to accuse him of lying. But when she looked into his eyes, she found no deception there, only conviction. The soldiers slowly began to lower their weapons fully. The tension eased, though doubt still lingered. The alien woman felt her chest rise and fall in sharp breaths. Her whole world had been built on fear, and now, before these humans, that world began to crack. She whispered again, more to herself than to them. Alive, only alive, is enough. The commander nodded once, a gesture of finality. Yes, he said, that is the human choice. For a long moment, silence wrapped around them, broken only by the distant crackle of flames. The alien woman's eyes filled with tears again. But this time they were not only of fear, they were something new, something she had not felt in so long she had almost forgotten the name hope. But even as the word grew inside her, a shadow stirred at the edges of her mind. If the humans chose to protect her, others would come. Her former captors would not. Let her go, and the mercy of these humans might soon be tested in fire and blood. Yet in that moment, as the commander's words lingered in the air, she felt something she had never felt before. Not ownership, not chains, not despair, but the fragile spark of freedom, and it all began with the human choice. The night was heavy with silence. The fires of battle had died down, leaving only smoke curling into the dark sky. The human soldiers built a small camp among the ruins, their armor stacked neatly, their weapons always near. They worked with quiet discipline, speaking in low voices, but their eyes often drifted to the alien woman who sat apart, her wrists still bound by cold chains. She hugged her knees to her chest, her face hidden in shadows. Though the humans had not harmed her, fear still clung to her bones like ice. She had lived too long with betrayal to believe in kindness, even when shown mercy. She expected the cruelty to come later. The commander sat near the fire, his gaze steady on her. He had ordered his soldiers not to touch her, not to question her, yet he knew trust could not grow in silence. If she was to walk among them, she would need to speak. Finally, he said, "What is your name?" The alien woman flinched. Her name. It was something she had not spoken in years. She had been called breeder, prize, gift, but never her true name. Her lips parted, her voice faint. Leora. The sound of it surprised her. It felt strange, foreign, like a memory half forgotten. The commander nodded slowly, repeating it with care. Leora. The way he said it, without mockery or claim, shook her heart. One of the younger soldiers tilted his head, whispering, "She doesn't look dangerous, sir." Another muttered, "Sometimes the most broken carry the deepest scars." Their words were soft, but Leora heard them, and her chest tightened. They were not wrong. Her scars were not on her skin, but buried deep in her soul. The commander's voice broke through the silence again. "Tell me, Leora, who did this to you? Who made you believe you are only worth children?" Her eyes widened and she looked away. Her throat burned, and for a long time she said nothing. The humans waited, patient, their fire crackling softly in the dark. At last, the words spilled. From her lips, weak but sharp like broken glass, "My own people," she whispered. They were losing the war, desperate for survival. They sold me, their own blood, to secure peace. They said my body was a gift, my womb a weapon. The humans grew still, the firelight flickering across their faces. She pressed her nails into her palms, her voice shaking. From one master to another I was passed. Each race said the same thing, that I would bear them strong heirs, that my children would make them rulers. They never asked if I wanted it. They never saw me as alive, only as a vessel. Her breath caught and tears welled in her eyes. She tried to hide them, but the words would not stop. I begged for death many times, but they laughed. They said I was too valuable to kill. The camp was silent. Even the youngest soldier who had doubted her before clenched his fists. His jaw tight, Leora dared to glance up, and she saw no greed in their faces, no hunger, only anger, not at her, but at what had been done to her. The commander's voice was firm, his tone heavy with steel. "They were wrong," he said. "No one decides your worth but you, Leora." Her chest shook. The words sounded impossible, yet his eyes told her he believed them. She pressed a trembling hand against her heart, whispering, "But if I am not what they say, then who am I?" The commander leaned forward. "That is for you to decide. You are more than what they made you. You are alive, and that is enough." The fire snapped, sparks flying into the night. Leora's tears fell freely now, but for the first time, they carried not only pain, but something else, the faintest spark of belief. Yet even as she began to feel this fragile warmth, a shadow passed over the camp. Far away, deep in the darkness, She felt a presence. Her body stiffened, her voice trembling. "They will come," she said. "My captors will not let me go. They will hunt me until I am theirs again." The soldiers straightened, their hands drifting toward their weapons. The commander's jaw tightened, but his voice remained calm. "Let them come," he said. "They will find that humans do not give back what we choose to protect." Leora stared at him, her heart racing. Could it be true? Could these humans truly stand against the ones who had crushed her spirit? The thought was terrifying, yet it lit a fire in her chest. For the first time in years, she whispered not a plea, but a vow. "If they come, I will not run, I will not beg again, not if you stand with me." The commander nodded once, the firelight reflecting in his eyes like molten steel. "Then stand you will, Leora, not as a prize, but as one who chooses her own fate." The camp grew quiet again, but this time the silence was different. It was not the silence of fear or chains. It was the silence before a storm. And in that silence, the whispers of Leora's past began to fade, replaced by the faint, fragile sound of something she had thought long dead. Courage. The campfire burned low, its light flickering across steel armor and tired faces. The human soldiers sat in a rough circle, their voices quiet but steady. The air smelled of smoke and iron. Yet there was something else here too. Unity. It was not forced, not demanded, but natural. Like each man and woman was a part of one body, one will. Leora sat near the edge of the firelight, her chains heavy around her wrists. Her eyes followed the humans with cautious curiosity. They moved with a strange discipline, yet they laughed softly among themselves. They shared food, passed water skins, and spoke as equals. To her it was strange, alien even, that warriors could show such warmth. The commander sat across from her, his gaze steady but not harsh. He had not spoken much since their talk by the fire, but his silence carried weight. The men and women respected him, not because of fear, but because of trust. It was clear in every glance, every nod, every word spoken. At last Leora dared to speak, her voice quiet. "Why? Why do you fight so hard for each other? For me? You gain nothing." The commander looked at her, then at his soldiers. He answered simply, "Because we are human." The words puzzled her. She frowned, whispering, "But what does that mean? Other races fight too. Other races have armies." One of the soldiers, a woman with scars across her cheek, leaned forward. "No," she said. "Other races fight for power, for conquest, for control. We fight for something different." Another soldier, younger with tired eyes, added, "We fight for home, for family, for the ones who cannot lift a weapon." Leora's eyes widened. She had never heard such words spoken with such fire. She pressed her hands together, whispering, "Family, but you are soldiers. You kill. You destroy." The commander's voice was calm yet strong. "Yes, we kill when we must, but we do not kill for pleasure. We fight so that others may live free. That is our strength." The soldiers nodded, their faces lit by the glow of the fire. One by one, they shared their voices, their truths. "I fight because my village was burned, and I swore no child would know that pain again," said the scarred woman. "I fight because my brother cannot. He is too young, too weak. So I fight for him," said the young soldier. "I fight because we humans do not abandon our own," said another. Leora's chest tightened. Their words were not empty. She could feel it. A pulse, a heartbeat shared by all of them. They did not fight for greed, or blood, or chains. They fought for each other, for something invisible but stronger than any weapon. The commander leaned forward, his eyes fixed on her. "This is humanity's hidden strength, Leora. Not our weapons, not our numbers. It is this: we rise when we should fall. We stand together when others break apart. We protect not just ourselves, but those who cannot protect themselves." Her breath caught. The words struck deep, shaking the roots of all she had been taught. She whispered, trembling, "But mercy makes you weak, does it not?" My captors. Always said so. The commander's voice turned like steel. No. Mercy is not weakness. Mercy is choice. To be strong enough to destroy, but to choose to protect instead. That is true power. The fire cracked, sparks rising into the night sky. Leora stared at them, her heart pounding. For so long she had believed power belonged only to those who owned, who controlled, who broke others into submission. But here among these humans she saw something different. They were strong, not because they crushed the weak, but because they lifted them. And for the first time, she wondered, was strength not what she thought it was? But as hope grew in her chest, a cold wind swept through the ruins. The night seemed to shift, shadows stretching long. Leora's body froze, her senses sharp. She knew this presence. The hunters, her former captors, were drawing near. Her voice trembled as she whispered, "They are coming." The humans stiffened, their laughter fading. Hands moved to weapons, armor shifted into place. The warmth of the fire gave way to the chill of war. The commander rose to his feet, tall and unshaken, his eyes locked on the soul horizon. "Let them come," he said. "They will learn what it means to face humans." Leora's heart pounded, fear and wonder colliding inside her. She had seen armies before, countless soldiers with endless power, but none of them carried the fire she saw in these humans. She whispered to herself, almost in disbelief, "They are different. They truly are different." And in that moment, as the first distant roar echoed through the night, Leora understood. She had not only found protectors, she had found something far greater. A family born not of blood, but of choice. A strength hidden not in conquest, but in mercy. And it was this strength, the strength of humanity, and that might yet save her. The night was no longer quiet. A low hum rolled across the ruins, sharp and unnatural. Leora's body stiffened. She knew that sound. Her captors were near, their ships cutting through the air like predators in the dark. The humans rose at once, their movements quick, disciplined. Helmets slid back over their heads, armor locked into place. The firelight vanished against the steel of their weapons. They were ready. Leora's heart thundered in her chest. Her hands shook as she clutched the chain still around her wrists. "They found me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "They never stop, never. They'll take me again." The commander turned to her, his voice steady. "No, Leora, they will not." She shook her head violently. "You don't understand. They don't care how many lives they burn, how much blood they spill. They will come until I am theirs again. Please, let me go. If I leave, they won't follow you." The commander's gaze was firm, unshaken. "We don't abandon those under our protection. Not for fear, not for safety. If they want you, they'll have to come through us." Her breath caught, her eyes wide. The words struck her like a storm. No one had ever said such things to her. No one had ever chosen danger for her sake. The humming grew louder, a deep vibration in the ground. The humans took formation, spreading out in silence. Their discipline was unlike any army she had seen. Each soldier knew their place, each trusted the other. It was like watching a living shield rise around her. Suddenly, a shadow swept over the ruins. The alien ship hovered above, its lights slicing through the smoke. A voice boomed from the sky, metallic and cold. "Return the girl, and your deaths will be quick." The humans did not answer. The commander raised his weapon, his voice calm but strong. "She is not yours." The ship's engines roared. Figures descended, tall and armored, their weapons glowing. Leora stumbled back, terror clawing at her throat. She had seen these hunters break entire worlds. She had seen them drag her people away in chains. How could a handful of humans stand against them? The commander turned briefly to her, his voice low but sharp. "Stay behind us, no one touches you." The first wave of hunters hit the ground, their weapons ready. The air shook with the clash of steel and fire. The humans moved as one, their rifles roared, bright flashes lighting the night. The hunters staggered, surprised by the ferocity of the human defense. Leora's eyes widened, her breath stolen. She had seen armies fight for conquest, but never for a single life. And yet here they stood, humans facing monsters many times their size, all for her. The hunters shouted, their voices sharp with rage. Give her to us. She is ours. The commander's reply was like thunder. She belongs to no one. The humans surged forward, blades flashing, bullets screaming. Their fury was not wild but controlled, each strike purposeful. Leora's chains rattled as she crouched low, watching in disbelief. Every human fought as if her life was worth more than their own. A hunter broke through the line, charging toward her. Leora froze, terror locking her limbs. The monster raised its weapon ready to strike, but before the blow could fall, the scarred woman soldier leapt between them. Her blade cut deep, her voice fierce. You'll never touch her. The hunter fell, its body crashing into the dirt. Leora gasped, tears stinging her eyes. Why? Why would this human bleed for her? A stranger, a broken captive. The battle raged, the night filled with screams and fire. More hunters poured from the ship, their weapons glowing. Yet the humans did not falter. Even wounded, even outnumbered, they fought with a fire that no alien army could match. The commander stood at the center, unshaken. Every shot he fired, every strike he made carried the weight of his vow. Leora's chest ached as she realized the truth. They were not fighting because she was valuable. They were fighting because she was alive. The hunters grew desperate, their voices sharp with fury. She was promised to us, her blood is our right. The commander roared back, his voice carrying over the battlefield. No life is promised to slavers, no blood belongs to tyrants. Leora's tears flowed freely. For the first time in her life, someone had declared her free. Not a vessel, not a prize, but free. The hunters pulled back, regrouping near their ship. The humans held their ground, weapons ready. The air was thick with smoke and blood, but the humans still stood. And behind them, Leora stood too. Her knees weak, but her spirit stirring, her whisper was carried away by the wind. They fight for me, even now, even against death itself. The commander glanced back, his eyes meeting hers. Remember this, Leora, he said, his voice fierce and steady. No one owns you. Not them. Not us. You are free, and anyone who says otherwise will answer to us. The hunters roared with rage, preparing another assault. The humans braced themselves, their line unbroken, and Leora's heart beat with a new rhythm. Not of fear, but of defiance. For the first time in her life, she did not feel like prey. For the first time, she felt the fire of freedom burn inside her. The chase had begun. But this time, she was not running alone. This time, she had humans at her side. The ground shook. Engines roared above as the hunter's ship hovered, its dark shadow swallowing the ruins. Flashes of light cut through the smoke, and the hunters poured out once more, heavier armored, stronger weapons in their hands. They had come not only to capture Leora, but to crush the humans who dared to defy them. The human line stood firm. Their armor was scarred, their faces streaked with sweat and ash, but their eyes burned with fire. They were tired, outnumbered, wounded, and still unbroken. Leora crouched behind the commander, her hands trembling against her chains. Her heart hammered as she watched the hunters march forward in formation. Each step shook the earth like thunder. They were monsters of steel, bred for war. No army had ever stopped them before. The commander raised his hand. The humans tightened their line, their weapons ready. He spoke, calm but loud enough for all to hear. Tonight we fight not for conquest, not for riches, not for power. We fight for freedom. Hers, ours, everyone's. His. Words lit a spark in the soldiers. Their jaws tightened, their grips firmed. Even the wounded rose, refusing to be left behind. They knew this battle might be their last, but none of them turned away. The hunters roared, charging forward. The clash came like a storm, steel against steel, fire against fire. The night lit up with explosions, sparks flying through the dark. Human rifles cracked, blades slashed, grenades thundered. The ruins became a battlefield of fire and blood. A hunter broke through the left flank, towering over the young soldier who had spoken. Of his brother. The alien raised its weapon, ready to strike, but the soldier stood his ground, his teeth clenched. For my brother, he shouted, pulling the trigger. The blast ripped through the air, the hunter fell, and the soldier collapsed beside it, bleeding but smiling. Leora gasped, tears stinging her eyes. Why did he fight so hard? Why did he smile even as blood soaked the ground? Another hunter stormed toward the scarred woman, its blade slashed, grazing her arm. She screamed in pain but did not fall. Her blade struck back, faster, harder, cutting the monster down. Her voice was fierce. No chain will ever touch her again. The hunters pressed harder, their numbers endless, but the humans fought like fire itself. Every strike carried rage. Every step carried defiance. They did not fight as soldiers of conquest. They fought as protectors, and that made them unstoppable. The commander stood at the center, his rifle empty, his blade drawn. He cut through the hunters with precision, his face grim. Every movement spoke of his vow. No one would take Leora while he still breathed. Leora's chains rattled as she stumbled forward. She could not hide anymore. She could not watch them bleed and die for her without standing. Her voice rose, shaking but strong. "Stop chasing me, I'm not yours," she screamed toward the hunters. For the first time she spoke not in fear but in defiance. The hunters turned their heads, their eyes burning with rage. "You belong to us. Your blood is ours." But the humans roared back louder. "No, she is free." The words thundered across the battlefield. Not just a cry but a declaration, a truth carved in blood and fire. The hunters faltered. For the first time they hesitated. The humans pressed their advantage, their firepower doubling. Grenades lit the ground, hunters fell one after another, but victory came at a price. More humans fell, their bodies still clutching weapons. They gave everything, not for land, not for power, but for one woman's right to live. Leora's tears blurred her vision. Her chest ached. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "They are bleeding for me. For me." The commander turned briefly, his eyes fierce. "Not just for you, Leora, for the truth. For freedom. No one owns you, not them, not anyone." The hunters regrouped, calling for retreat to their ship. The sky rumbled as the engines flared, preparing to flee. The humans roared one last time, their weapons blazing. The final wave of fire struck the hunters down, their bodies scattering across the ruins, and then silence. The ship trembled, smoke rising from its engines. It turned, limping back into the night sky. The hunters had been broken, defeated not by numbers, not by weapons, but by the fire of human defiance. The battlefield lay quiet. Bodies of hunters smoldered, the ground scarred. The humans stood, some wounded, some bleeding. But they still stood. Leora fell to her knees, her tears streaming. She had never seen anything like it. Armies had fought for her before, but always to own her, to claim her blood. These humans had fought for something else. They had fought so she could choose her own life. Her voice trembled, carried by the wind. "Why? Why would you give so much for me?" The commander stepped forward, his blade dripping with blood, his eyes steady. "Because we are human," he said. "And being human means protecting those who cannot protect themselves." The soldiers gathered around, their heads bowed in respect for their fallen. Leora looked at them, at their scars, their pain, their fire. And for the first time in her life, she did not see herself as a captive. She saw herself as something she had long thought impossible. Free. The battle for freedom had been fought in blood and fire, and it was not over yet. But for the first time, Leora believed it could be won. The battlefield was silent at last. Smoke drifted through the broken ruins, carrying the heavy scent of fire and blood. The hunter's ship had fled into the night sky, leaving their dead scattered across the earth. The cries of war had ended, replaced by the soft groans of the wounded and the quiet breath of the living. The humans moved among their fallen, lifting those still alive, covering the faces of those who would not rise again. Every movement was careful, every touch filled with respect. They did not leave their dead to rot. They carried them, whispering their names as if to promise they would never be forgotten. Leora stood among them, her body trembling. Her wrists were still bound with chains, but for the first time, she did not feel their weight. Her eyes were swollen with tears, her heart heavy with both grief and awe. She had seen armies before, had seen warriors claim victory, but never had she seen such honor in the face of loss. The commander walked toward her, his armor dented, his blade still stained with blood, yet his steps were steady, his eyes unwavering. He stopped before her, his hand reaching for the chains around her wrists. Without a word, he drew a small blade and cut them loose. The chains fell to the ground. With a sharp clang, the sound echoed in her ears like thunder. For years those chains had been her life, her curse, her prison. Now they lay broken at her feet, her breath caught, her voice weak. I am free?" The commander nodded, his voice firm but gentle. "You are free, Leora. No one owns you, not now. Not ever again." Her knees buckled and she fell forward, not in submission, not in fear, but in relief. Her tears soaked the earth as she whispered, "Thank you. Thank you." The commander placed a steady hand on her shoulder. His voice was low, meant only for her. "Do not thank us. Live free and that will be enough." The soldiers gathered near, forming a circle around them. Their faces were tired, their bodies scarred, but in their eyes burned a light stronger than any flame. They had fought, they had bled, they had lost. Brothers and sisters, and all for her right to choose her life. Leora rose slowly, her hands trembling. Her eyes swept across the humans. For so long, she had believed she was nothing but a vessel, a prize, a tool. But here, in this circle of warriors, she saw something else. She was not a prisoner. She was one of them. Her voice wavered as she spoke. "Why? Why would you risk so much for me? For someone you did not know?" The scarred woman soldier stepped forward, her eyes fierce. "Because you were alone, and no one should stand alone." The young soldier, still bleeding from his wounds, smiled weakly. "Because family is not only blood, it is choice," another soldier added, his tone steady. "Because freedom means nothing if it is not shared." Leora's chest ached, her tears spilling freely. Their words were like fire in the darkness, burning away the last shadows of her doubt. She was no longer a tool, no longer prey, no longer silent. She was alive, and she was free. The commander lifted his gaze to the horizon, where the hunter's ship had vanished. His voice carried across the ruins, strong and unbroken. "They will come again, others will come. But so will we. And every time they rise to chain the innocent, we will rise to break those chains." The soldiers answered with a low rumble, a vow spoken without fear. Leora felt the sound in her bones. It was not only a promise of war, but a promise of life. She turned her eyes to the stars, her voice soft but steady. "For so long I thought I had no future, but tonight I see it, not as a prisoner, not as a tool, but as myself." The humans watched her, their faces calm. They did not claim her, they did not bind her. They simply stood with her as equals, as protectors, as family. The dawn began to rise, its light breaking across the battlefield. The sky burned with red and gold, and in that light, Leora felt the world change. She had been born into chains, but now she would walk into freedom. Her voice was strong now, carrying through the morning air. "I will not bow again. I will not beg again. I am free, and I will live as one who chooses her own path." The commander nodded once, his eyes steady. "Then walk with us, Leora, for among humans, you will never walk alone." The soldiers turned, gathering their wounded, lifting their fallen. The ruins lay behind them, the future ahead. Leora followed, her steps unsteady but sure. The chains were gone, but their scars would remain. Yet she no longer feared them, for scars were proof not of weakness but of survival. And as the humans marched into the rising sun, Leora marched with them, not as a captive, not as a tool, but as something far greater, free,